Hey yo, welcome back to the channel. First, do me a favor and subscribe. Thank you. Let's get to 1000 subscribers. This is going to be my last video of the year. Well, it's the second to last video on the channel because I'm working on this 2022 rewind. I think since March I've posted a video every week. So let's get into this video. It's a comparison between three sneakers. I want to point out that these are strictly my opinions. Please don't be hurt. Like some people were hurt with my Homa R3000 review, which is kind of funny to me. I have full reviews for all these three sneakers. I'm going to put them in a comment. So this is just going to be a quick summary, a comparison between these and some of my thoughts. So let's get into it. So I'm going to do this exactly like my previous two videos. I have two of these comparisons on my channel. And I'm going to rate from 1 to 5. 5 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. And I'm going to add everything up. I'm going to give you the results at the end of the video. Let's get right into it with the price. Is going to be 2 points for the Hoka, 5 points for the Homa, 2 points for the Scott Speed. The Hoka and the Scott Speed are kind of expensive, but I bought them on discount, half priced, still a bit expensive. Next is the design. It's 5 points for the Hoka, 4 points for the Homa, 5 points for the Scott Speed. And moving right along to comfort, it's 5 points for the Hoka, 5 points for the Homa, and 4 points for the Scott. The Hoka, it's very comfortable. The Homa, again, very comfortable, and that's because of the midsole. And the Scott Speed, it's okay. Moving right along to fit, it's going to be 4 points for the Hoka. I had to do a few modifications to these. I had to remove the fabric that was sewn in on the inside, so these had the gusseted tongue, and I had to cut away this groove in the tongue. The Homa gets 4 points. These are a bit loose, but the only reason for that is because they have the wrong size recommendation on the website, so I bought the wrong size based on their recommendation. The heel on the Scott Speed kind of slips out, so 3 points. Next is going to be quality control, a new one in the list, and it's 5 points for the Hoka because there's no problem with them really. But it's going to be 2 points for the Homa. I do know these are made in a factory. I know a person makes the right shoe, another person makes the left shoe. But just look at this crooked stitching, the logo on the heel. It's higher on one side. You can actually feel and hear the padding on the inside. And 4 points for the Scott because there's a tiny bit of separation here on the toe, and that's how they came. The materials on all these three are not something extremely special. It's just mesh on all of them, different mesh, but mesh. So 3 points for the Hoka. That's because the sock liner should have been black. 4 points for the Homa. I really like the materials on these. Perforated mesh, but the sock liner, it's made out of this nice material. I like this tongue with the chained mesh. And it's going to be 3 points for the Scott because of the yellowing in the fused materials on the toe cap and the fact that there is no actual hard toe cap. Next is going to be support. 3 points for the Hoka, 4 points for the Homa, 3 points for the Scott Speed Carbon. And moving right along to the padding, 3 points for the Hoka, 4 points for the Homa, and 2 points for the Scott. The padding is okay on the Hoka sneakers. I cannot really feel it that well, but the sneakers are kind of nicely made. The padding is okay on the Homa, and if we're talking about the Scott Speed, there is just a thin strip of padding. The Scott sneaker is the only one that has lint formed in the back, in the heel part, because the heel keeps on slipping out and it keeps on rubbing on that material. And moving right along to squishiness, 4 points for the Hoka. Very nice midsole, no complaints. But then again, we have the Homa sneaker with 5 points because, as I said in my review, the midsole comes close to Nike React squishiness. 3 points for the Scott sneaker. Moving on to the outsole, 3 points for the Hoka sneaker. I don't really like the outsole on these. They put this thick foamish rubber, which is not really rubber, on the outsole, which also started wearing. You can see it. This should have been black or gray. By the way, I have cleaned all these, so that's why I can touch them with my hands. 4 points for the Homa. Surprisingly, even though these have just thin strips of rubber and there's a lot of midsole exposed, it doesn't show signs of wearing. So 4 points, 3 points for the Scott sneaker because, again, a lot of midsole exposed. Moving along to the weight, it's 5 points for the Hoka. I think it's 250 or 249 grams for these. 3 points for the Homa because this is the heaviest out of the three, and 4 points for the Scott Speed. Next, let's talk about the breathability, and this is an easy one. It's 5 points for all these. As I said, all these have a mesh upper, really breathable on all of them. I like it. Next is the on-feet look. 5 points for the Hoka, 4 points for the Homa, 4 points for the Scott. And next is the POV look, how the sneaker looks when you are looking at it. It's 5 points again for the Hoka, and it's going to be 4 points for the Homa, and it's going to be 3 points for the Scott. Moving right along to the carbon use in the sneaker. Personally, if I'm going to buy a carbon fiber plated sneaker, I really want to see that carbon fiber, man. So it's going to be 2 points for the Hoka. You cannot really see the carbon in these. It's going to be 3 points for the Homa. Yes, you can see more of that carbon fiber, but still. And it's going to be 4 points for the Scott. Anyway, moving right along to the long distance walking, and it's 5 points for the Hoka sneakers, no doubt. And I'm going to change the rating to 5 points also for the Homa sneakers. I took this out recently. And it's 4 points for the Scott Speed. Not really that bad, but again, I had to differentiate between them. And the second to last category is branding. So 4 points for the Hoka, 5 points for the Homa, 5 points for the Scott. And the final category is the wow factor. How spectacular are the sneakers? How much I really like them. You already know, it's 5 points for the Hoka sneaker. It's going to be 4 points for the Homa, and it's 5 points for the Scott sneaker. So moving on to pluses and minuses. If we're talking about the Hoka sneaker, I'm going to add 1 point for the design, no minuses. Moving on to the Homa, I'm going to add 1 point for that incredible midsole. I'm going to take away 1 point because these should have a curved outsole, midsole, so you don't step on the actual midsole. I'm going to take another point because they recommend you a size, and physically on the label it's a different size. I'm going to take another point because there is no customer support, and I'm going to take another point, so this is going to be minus 4 points. Right out of the box, these had that stench of adhesive, of cheap adhesive. I've worn these a lot. I've sprayed them with deodorizer multiple times, but it seems like that smell keeps on coming back, which is very bad. Moving on to the Scott Speed Carbon RC, I'm going to add 1 point because to me it's a new brand, it's a fresh sneaker, it's a nice design, but I'm going to take out 1 point. The blue on the midsole and the blue on the heel cup, the shade of blue is different, and that really pisses me off. And also we have a different blue on the outsole rubber. I'm going to add everything up, and I'm going to give you the final results in just a few seconds. And do me a favor and subscribe. I will see you next time.